we're going to be friends for at least another 20 years until you drop me off.
Well, how do I do it? I'm like, what do you mean? How do you do it? Tell you what, as soon as we get off this call, go do it. That's how. There's no secret because they got good hearts and they're good people. They're just not really good fits for me anymore. There's so many other things that you could do, and that's what we ultimately want to set out to do with this podcast, is bring light to all those amazing feats out there. I'm Vin. How would we do it? Maybe we throw out like, I don't think we need to throw
that
out
sounds like an AA meeting. Like, hi, I'm Shane. I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't need to throw out what we did. I'm Vin.
I'm Shane.
And this is the 1% podcast.
Oh yeah, baby. 1%ers.
That's what we do. We are finding ways to cultivate a meaning of what 1% is. Maybe you have a desire to be in the 1% body club, which means you're one of 3,000 people in the US that have abs.
Not me.
Maybe not us, not either of us. Maybe you want to be 1%er and own a super mega yacht. Maybe you're a 1%er where you travel the world and you've been to more countries than the average person. Whatever the 1% is, that's what we're looking to bring out on this podcast. We want to define all the cool ways you could be a 1%er in this world. And there's many ways to do it. It's not just about money. There's so many other things that you could do. And that's what we ultimately want to set out to do with this podcast, is bring light to all those amazing feats out there. So
yeah, you hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah. So let's jump into it a little bit. We were talking about how, we know each other for a bit now. I'd say we've become pretty good friends. I don't know about you, but I think so. Yeah. And I feel like there's still a lot that we could not only learn about ourselves, but the audience doesn't know nearly enough about us either. So, Shane, why don't you go ahead and give the people a little something about you? Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? What's the idea or the mission in your life right now?
Wow. Well, I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll see what I can
keep it abridged
here. So I want to start out and say that, this 1% group that we are creating right here, I love how open it is, because that 1% mentality is really, it's different to everybody's eyes. So I love the description that you gave to that, and that really opened my eyes to that. Myself is, I'm a husband and a father. I have a 2-year-old son. My wife is currently 6 months pregnant with our daughter, little Raya, who's due December 24th, a nice Christmas baby.
Whoa.
Yeah.
She's gonna get gypped on presents every year.
Yeah. I feel actually bad for that too, because when she gets a little bit older, 6, 7, when you have parties with other friends, they're all going to be busy on vacation because it's around Christmas time, it's around the holiday time. So people give me advice to do like half birthdays, like, oh, you should do it in July, give her a half birthday in July. I'm like, we'll see how it plays out.
That's interesting. I've never heard of that. My suggestion was going to be that you separate the pile of gifts and you say these half are Christmas gifts and these half are birthday presents.
See, and that's easy for us too. Yeah, I think we might go that route as well. So I have a very interesting background, as I have kind of dabbled in a lot of different things. I started out and I came from nothing, by the way. So I started out as a greeter at Verizon Wireless. Yeah, a greeter. And I used to sell broadband cards. It's those little internet cards. And I used to just promote them to get them to book an appointment with the sales rep. I did so well, I got promoted to sales. And I just crushed it. I loved that mentality of, it was like a new slate every single day, every single month with that quota. I had that very hungry drive mentality. About 5 years later, I decided I wanted to pursue something else. I actually saw an ad on TV for Cordon Bleu. So I actually joined culinary school. As you can see, I ate my way through culinary school, and I worked for a couple of restaurants. I actually did a AI Institute, that's the school that I went to, chopped competition. So I won that. I thought I was going to be destined to be this glorious chef, and it was awesome. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. except working every single weekend, every single holiday, 60 to 80 hours a week. That was a little rough on me personally. So I've reflected and I said, you know what? I want something better. So I went back into sales. I actually joined Solar City, who's now been bought out by Tesla. Rose to the ranks, started out as a sales rep, then a manager, and then a regional director. And then a buddy of mine said, you know what? I'm opening up a marketing company. And would you be any interested in that? I'll do the back end, you do the front end sales. And I said, sure, why not? I've never worked for myself. That was about a decade ago. And, recently we split the company about 5-6 years ago. And then I started this virtual assistant company. Virtual assistant company has blown up. We have over 400 employees and clients. And to be honest, it was because of COVID is why we exploded. Business owners were rethinking the ways that they can actually, offset their tedious day-to-day tasks without hiring local in-house employees. Virtual assistants came into play. And now it's become so much of a need versus a want. It honestly it's just a very exciting time for the VA group and for me right now. So that's currently where I'm at right now. I'm dabbling in a couple other ventures as well, but that's pretty much my bread and butter that I focus on now. And I think I summed it up pretty good. Didn't take up too much time. So, I got to flip it back over to here. I can't have all the talk time here. So Mr. Vin Infante, the man of the hour, tell me about you. I mean, what's your start to finish here? We'll start to where you're at now.
Well, I definitely haven't been a culinary expert, but I've enjoyed cooking. That's part of growing up in an Italian home. So I could definitely connect with that. Maybe we'll have a cook-off, but you'll probably win because you actually know how to cook. I know how to measure things with my eye based on what might taste good.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, but you're trained. You can look and you're like, oh, that is a proper measurement. I look at it, I'm like, this might be good. I don't know.
Here come the excuses now for the cook-off. Oh boy.
Oh man. So my childhood was, this is going to turn into a therapy session now. But my childhood was the biggest catalyst for where I'm at in my life because I'd spent most of my life getting bullied. I had spent most of my life living as a victim where I was constantly made to feel that I didn't belong anywhere, constantly made to feel that I wasn't worthy of anything. And that all started really early, right? Like I was getting bullied, I want to say as early as like kindergarten, realistically. And it wasn't anything crazy. Like I'm not getting my ass beat in kindergarten. It was more like when you play house, I was always the dog. And I would have to just kind of lay in the corner. That was like the role that I played in kindergarten when we'd make pretend. And it was always innocent, right? But then you realize it's like, wow, I never actually fit in, did I? And I continued to see that as I continued to grow. Like I would get bullied. I'd be the butt of jokes, right? There were things that always stuck with me from like 5th grade. I had a sleepover and I woke up and there was just food all around me and everyone made pretend I ate all the food in the house. And it might seem innocent, but when everybody's laughing at you and you never really fit in, it sticks with you. And then you go to the bathroom to try and like wash off all of that feeling that like I'm being the guy out right now. Then you come back and your whole sleeping bag is full of shaving cream because you had another fun joke. And then you cry and you call your mom to come pick you up and everybody kind of remembers that, right? So that continued, and then it just seemingly as life continues to go on, it continued to get worse. In middle school, I got thrown down the steps by one of these bullies I dealt with, and then when I went to when I went to the dean, this is actually a kind of funny story that taught me you can't trust people that are supposed to help you. Where I went to the dean and I told him what happened, that this kid had thrown me down the steps. And he said, well, what did you do? I said, well, I had started taking karate, and I started taking karate because I'd been tired of getting bullied so much, right? And he said, my sensei said I need to learn to stand up for myself. So he said, the next kid that's trying to bully you, like, stand your ground. So the kid was telling me to go down my steps. He was calling me names. I said, I'll go when I'm ready. He threw me down the steps. And so I told this story to the dean. And so the dean's like, okay, I see what's going on. He's like, well, we're going to go to the principal. Go to the principal. Principal's like, hey, well, what happened? And the dean points to me and he says, well, this tough guy started a fight because he started taking karate and now he thinks he can take on anyone in this school. So the other kid, nothing happened to him. I got a warning. He got a warning. But like, you know, now it's I'm the bad guy starting trouble. High school was much the same. I got thrown in trash cans. I got pushed into lockers. And it was never really easy for me. And so around high school was probably the worst. I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, panic disorder. I was having a lot of really bad issues related to stress. I was having a lot of body aches. I was having issues keeping food down. Like there was all these physiological symptoms that go on when you're overly stressed. And I never realized that at the time, right? Throughout all of this, I had also grown to be really, obviously very depressed and really suicidal. So I had a lot of suicidal ideation. I had a lot of plans. Like I would think of ways that I could do it. Have some self-harm tendencies where I would just kind of, you know, I've learned this about self-harm is that you would hurt yourself to try to control the pain you're experiencing in life. So again, you don't really know that at the time, right? But I knew that if I would do it on my shoulder because I didn't want to be like one of those people that got the, you know, like, oh, hey, you have marks on your wrist and things. Like I wasn't trying to get the attention, but you know, I would do it and then I would feel better, but it was never really a thing, right? So there's a lot of stuff for me to process in my life. As I went into college, I tried to reinvent myself. It didn't really work too well. My panic attacks continued to get worse to the point that I would have heart palpitations at like 20 years old. I was having chest pain. I wasn't able to make a decision unless I called my therapist to have him make a decision for me. And all of these things continued to spiral out of control. Like it would ruin all of my relationships. I had a lot of anxious attachment issues. I would be depressed if my friends went out without me. I would be thinking my girlfriends were cheated on me. I would have such little self-worth that, you know, my whole life was just awful. And I was having mental breakdown after mental breakdown, trying to drop out of school because I didn't want to do anything with my life. My dad had helped me and forced me through it. You know, he's like, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. And so I eventually graduated and I had started coming into figuring out these aspects that I call the 5 aspects of self-mastery. And these were the things that started changing my life. These were the things that started helping me create a new trajectory. And so at 23 years old, I started figuring my shit out when I graduated college. And I started reinventing myself. And from the time I was about 18 to 28, I'd worked in every mental health setting you could think of. I had been in inpatient, outpatient, hospital clinics, homeless shelters, private practice, Department of Education. I did applied behavioral analysis. I was a traveling home therapist. And I'd basically been trying to really find my way. So as I reinvented myself personally, I then started to figure out what do I want to do professionally. And so in trying each of these things, I realized that I love helping people. I want to help people. I want to serve people, but I don't know how I want to do it because I don't find any of these things fulfilling. I wound up becoming a firefighter at 28 and served FDNY in New York City during the COVID pandemic and the protests and all that fun stuff. And I did that for about a year as I had started building out my coaching business on the side. And I'd started realizing that I really love coaching and that there's something really unique about this that I have an opportunity to do, which is I want to change the way the world views mental health. And so I started creating a hybrid service that is a combination of therapy, mentoring, and coaching aspects in one service, which combines all of my knowledge from psychotherapy, my knowledge from coaching, and a lot of my life experiences from mentoring. And in that, I started realizing that I had a really good opportunity to help people that I see as high performers. So I started working with entrepreneurs and business owners and helping people who are running just ridiculous companies or doing amazing things in this world. And it was actually, and still remains to be, extremely humbling to this day, because I was the guy who couldn't make a decision unless I called my therapist while I was having a panic attack, to advising people who are running 10 to 11 figure businesses and companies. And they're asking me, how should they make a decision? And it's always something that puts a smile on my face because I get to look back at my story and be like, it's crazy how far I've come. And so I've made it my mission to attempt to impact 1 billion lives positively and change the way the world views mental health. And also teaching people, like I did, that you don't have to embrace your diagnosis. I've ditched my diagnosis. I don't believe I ever had anxiety, depression, and panic disorder. I believe I had moments that I've struggled with, and they're not any part of who I am or who I was, and that I release them as moments of time. So these are some of the things that I'm trying to work on now. And I wanted to create this community because, one, I've never really had one. And two, I think that everybody needs a community. I think everybody needs somewhere that they fit in. And that's why I try to do what I do. My intro was a little bit longer than Shane's, but
I think your story.
Storyteller's got to tell stories.
I honestly think your story relates with a lot of people. I mean, even just parts of it. And what a great, story from where you were to where you are now. I think that's the American dream. And in my opinion, that's that 1% right there, and which is, the mindset and the drive. So that's phenomenal for where you're at and where you want your mission in life. I'm humbled to just be here, and for the audience here, I've never heard that story. So this is the first time, hearing the full thing, and chills throughout the entire story. So that's, Vin, you're an incredible person. So just so, you can hear that. And I've been honored to be called an associate, a colleague, and a friend as well. So I'm looking forward to a lot more ventures with you here. But you got that 1% mentality. If you guys don't see the aura that's right here with Vin and Fonte, or Vincent and Fonte, I call him Vin. I earn the right here.
It's easier anyway. Let everybody call him Vin. Everyone, I'm Vin.
Phenomenal story, man. I love it.
Thanks, man. But I think that part of why I also tell my story is I like to, one, lead with vulnerability. Two, your vulnerability becomes your invulnerability. And three, everyone's got a story. And in everyone's story is everyone's lesson. Like, I loved even listening to your story. I didn't know a lot of those things, which is why I think this is a really fun conversation too, is you have a lot of really cool things that you've done. And you've shown it time and time again that you are someone who, you just take something and you go from like the dirt and you grow a 500-foot tree and you touch the sky. And I think that's also a really impressive thing, right? Because there's so many different personalities and people in this world, which is really cool. Like, you're the guy who can take something and see nothing. Like, you're the guy who could see the seeds in the dirt and they're going to become trees, and you're not stressed about that. You're just like, I know it'll grow, and you do it. And I applaud that, because I think a lot of people fall short and they don't get to the 1% because they can't appreciate that process. But I think you have a deep appreciation for the process, and that's important.
The deep appreciation for the process, yes. But there's a lot of people that call this different things. Like, there's sheep and there's wolves, there's dreamers and there's doers. To be honest, the difference that I would say is I'm not afraid of failure and being backed into a corner, because just like you, I've been there my whole life. I mean, people that tell me that I'm not good enough, or that I'm never going to get to where I want to be, or my dreams are too big, like that almost just motivates me more to just become the best that I want, or the best that I can be, excuse me. So it's honestly having a good work ethic and not being afraid to, actually do the work and dream big and put it through there. That's all it takes. It's not any secret sauce. It's not like you and I were born different. It's just we saw what we wanted and we're doing it. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I think you know what it is too. In addition to that, I agree with you. You could probably be a pretty good coach yourself, because when I have coaching clients and they're like, "Well, how do I do it?" I'm like, "What do you mean? How do you do it? Tell you what, as soon as we get off this call, go do it. That's how. There's no secret. Instead of asking, how do I do it? Ask, what do I do? And then once you know what you do, then go do it. Because it's that simple. But I think there's also one other piece is that, and I learned this a while back. Now there's a really cool thing in psychology. So in cognitive behavioral therapy, we talk about modeling, right? And it's focused on modeling specifically in behaviors. And what we know is that if you start modeling what somebody who's already where you want to be is doing, you have a pretty good opportunity, and a good opportunity, right? Not like you're gonna, but you have a good opportunity to get to a similar place, because success leaves clues. And so if you don't really know what to do, you could just look at what somebody who's successful has done, because there's going to be trails, right? You could see what they've done. You could Google. You could say, go out right now. Look, how did Tony Robbins get started? Go Google. How did he become the world's greatest life coach? What did he do? How did he start? What did he learn? You'll find all the info. But then the question is, are you going to go do the same stuff? Are you going to go learn what he learned? Are you going to go teach it? Are you going to go put yourself out there? Are you going to deal with failures and rejections like Shane was saying? Because if you're not, then you can't ever get there. But if you could do what you need to do, and that's it, day after day, like something's got to hit eventually, right?
Why recreate the wheel? When somebody successful has already laid down the groundwork, emulate that, make it better, become more successful. Yeah, you're spot on. But ultimately, if you're not going to do the work, there's nothing wrong with 9-to-5 jobs. And you know what? We were talking about that earlier. Being an employee and employer, there's nothing wrong with both mindsets. Working a Monday through Friday, 9-to-5 job, that's it. You go into work, you leave at 5 o'clock, you get to enjoy your weekend. You get to enjoy your family, you get to enjoy your friends. You don't have any worries, any responsibilities. When you're a business owner, when I've met a lot of business owners that have failed, that are still happy, then that's what they go to. That's great. When you're a business owner like us, it's nonstop. It's 24 hours. It's sometimes you lose sleep. It's sometimes a 16, 18-hour days because you have to figure out some problems. But we're doers.
Yeah, I agree. And that I like what you said there, because I think today in society too, there's a lot of emphasis on, go become an entrepreneur, go get the Lamborghini, go get the $5 million house and the yacht. Because if you don't have that, you ain't shit. And I think that's ridiculous, because the reality is that lifestyle isn't for everyone. I know a lot of people who wouldn't want to do the things that I do. I also conversely know a lot of people like us entrepreneurs who don't want to do what they would do, right? Like they would rather have, and you have to think about it because it actually comes down to a value system, right? And this is where I tell people, just understand what you value, because that's how you should live your life. It's not about, should you have the $1 million house, the yacht, the Bentley, or whatever the hell it is. It's more about, what do you value? Do you value safety? Do you value security? Do you value comfort? Right? If you value those things, you're probably going to be more likely to want to be an employee, realistically, because it is a lot safer. Though you could get fired, right? Because you don't control your job. You also know that you don't have to figure out your own payroll. You don't have to figure out how to get paid for sick days and vacation time, and you don't have to work past a certain time, and you get to be home, like Shane said. Like, those are all great things. I don't think there's anything wrong with acknowledging that some people just like that and want that and enjoy that. I've worked with clients before I started working with entrepreneurs as my main focus. I used to have clients as a regular therapist working in a private practice, and some of the people there had 9-to-5s, and they were like, I love my life as it is. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to do 13, 15-hour days. I like that I could leave my job at 5, get home by 6, spend 3 hours with my kid, then watch Netflix with my wife, then go to bed, and then the weekends I could do whatever I want, go out with my friends, etc., etc. Like, they enjoy that. There's nothing wrong with that. And so I think society needs to also back off a little bit from like the bullshit hustle culture, because a lot of people are getting wrapped up and they're not happy or fulfilled in their 9-to-5s. And I think that that's not fair to them, because they might really enjoy it, but society is pressuring them to look at something else. And then on the other side, entrepreneurs are getting burnt out because the hustle culture is also bullshit, realistically. You might have to hustle a little bit, but everyone knows really successful business owners don't work that much. Like they are in a place where their systems and processes are so dialed in that they're not working 18 hours a day every day for 5 years. Like you think a multimillionaire and a billionaire is grinding 18 hours a day every day?
No.
That's ridiculous. That doesn't happen.
And to be honest, carrying on to that, I think happiness is truly perceptive, based on everybody's interpretations.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right about, I feel like Robert Kiyosaki, kind of said it best is don't work for money. Money is a fictitious thing. Money comes and goes. You want your money to work for you. So if you figure out ways to, and this is not an investment class right now, but if you figure out ways.
This is not financial advice.
Right.
Disclaimer.
But if you can figure out ways through successes and failures and talking to people that are more successful than you are, and you dabble with that, and you want to try to better your situation, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And also for successful business owners, yes, they don't have to work 16, 18-hour days all the time. But what Vin's talking about, you have to understand where you're currently at. And if you want, as far as an entrepreneur and a business owner, and if you want your business to get better, you have to make a process better. And then in my personal professional opinion, you delegate that. Because once you can figure a solution out, your mindset's on it, you understand how the process works, you can delegate that to your employees, to your managers, and then guess what you get to do? You can focus on other things: client acquisition, company growth, new failures. And this is what business owners do, successful entrepreneurs that I talk to day in and day out, is they learn what's going on, they figure it out, they delegate it, then they grow. Then there's new things, there's new bottle caps and bottlenecks to overcome. So that's how you can grow and get bigger and work on other projects. And that's, thankfully, the position where I'm currently at is delegation, offset, open up a 1% podcast, show the way, build a community. And a community is so important. And that's, the ultimate goal here is to talk to like-minded 1%, whatever that 1% means to you guys, mentality, and just kind of feed off of each other to help us grow. It's not about joining your drinking buddies and your golfing buddies and people that are not in the right mindset. Everybody says, and this is going on especially last couple of years, to ditch your friends, to ditch your losers, to ditch the people that aren't there. I don't think that's necessarily the right mindset and focus. I still think if you have high school friends that you've built rapport in for a while, if you want to go have a drink with them, go have a drink with them. You want to go golfing with them, go golfing with them. But you have to understand that that's the premise. That's the highlight of what this is going to be. If you want to join a 1% community, or you want to go talk to a business owner and your mindset is growth, it's meeting some like-minded individuals, then great. But that's growth in yourself, is you're able to have all of these things, and you're able to have fun and relax with your friends. You're able to focus on business and be successful, and you're able to have a family. That's what you do, is you have these different things. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I like that. It's actually funny. I was just chuckling as you said that, because I literally just posted or reposted a video from Hormozy on my Instagram talking about ditching your friends.
Love that.
But I agree. I agree with that. I do. I agree with both sentiments. I ditched a lot of people when I started growing, but I did it because I thought about a few things. One, there were some interactions that happened where I was like, these people aren't really friends anymore. Number two, and I think that this is really important, I like to play with timelines. I thought about all the amazing people I want to meet and be around. I thought about what I want my circle to look like. And then I thought about, I have all of these people together in a room, like where I'm throwing a party and everyone's there. Would I be proud of this group of people? And as I started looking at all the people that are going to be there, I put my friends in it too. My current friends, right? They're now ex-friends, but my current friends. And I imagine them walking around the party. being obnoxious, being the way they are, and being like, oh yeah, I'm Vin's best friend. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want that as an association anymore. And as I started looking at that, I thought that says something. If I'm embarrassed to have these people in an imaginary party, I probably shouldn't be keeping them around. And I don't believe in keeping people separate. I used to think like, oh, if I have these friends over here that aren't really, developing and growth oriented, and they don't really want much out of life, I could still hang out with them. But I also thought about, well, what's the point of that? They're going to be excluded from a lot of my life because I'm going to go to events. I'm not inviting them. I'm going to go to parties. I'm going to meet amazing people, and I'm going to be afraid that they're going to be like saying obnoxious shit or acting a certain type of way. And, realistically, people, even though I don't care about judgment, and I always tell people like, screw judgment, realistically, people are going to look at your friends and they are going to make assumptions about you, maybe not even judgments. They're just going to see your friends are rowdy, your friends are loud, your friends are obnoxious, your friends are saying certain things that they probably shouldn't be saying, and they're acting a certain way. And they're going to be like, oh, you've been friends with them your whole life? Okay, I see. Cool. So that's how you roll. Mm-hmm. And you really have to determine, like, who are you trying to become? Who do you want to be? But I also agree to what Shane says. If you still have some good friends that maybe aren't super growth oriented, etc., but they're not bad people, and they're not doing things that are obnoxious or obscene or absurd, I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping them around. I don't think there's anything wrong with maintaining those relationships. I think you really just have to look at the people in your life and ask if the personalities that they have and the way that they act are things that you'd be proud of having in your circle. Like, would you be proud to say that person is your friend? If someone flat out walked up to you and said, hey, is Shane your friend? And you were okay to be like, hell yeah, Shane's my friend. Do you have a problem with him? Because if you do, you have a problem with me. Then that's someone you should keep. But if somebody's like, hey, Shane, your friend, you're like, I mean, I knew him years ago, but like, we're not as close anymore. If you would have that response, that person shouldn't be your friend anymore.
And I think that's it's spot on. Like, for those extremes, it's kind of getting out of that type of situation. If someone's going to go get, drunk and go paint the town red when you're like 21 years old, yes, you shouldn't be around that, because, if your goals are not going to be the same or in line, then yeah, I wouldn't recommend hanging out with those type of people. I would definitely agree with that. However, the other alternative, even if they're regular 9-to-5ers and you have a childhood friend, but they got a great mind on them, and, regardless if your ambitions are different, if they will, be for you, they'll bury a body with you, is kind of what I'm getting at there. But they'll be there wherever you are, wherever you need them. Those true diehard friends that still have a good head on their shoulders. That's what I'm getting at. I think where I was kind of pointing this at is that old business. If they're not going the same focus and they don't share the same dream, and it's all, we got to make $100 million or whatever that, mindset actually is. I don't know. To be honest, relating with what you were saying with too, I feel like I need to make a couple phone calls.
Maybe you do. And it's not easy. I've had clients, I myself, have struggled with cutting off friends. I actually cut 3 11-year friendships in one day. And it just had to happen. And it had to happen because there was a whole series of events that led up to that. And that's where I knew, like, these, and to your point, they're good people. I have a feeling if I still called at least 2 of those friends, like today, after not talking to them for almost 2.5 years, they'd probably still answer and ask me if everything's okay. Because they know we don't talk anymore. But if I called, they'd be like, why are you calling? Like, is everything okay? Because they got good hearts and they're good people. They're just not really good fits for me anymore. And certain events had really shown me that. And it's okay to outgrow people and still have love for them. And just know that maybe is a different time in your life. And I still think back to the memories I have with them. And I still think back to all the great things we did. I'm not going to discount that we had a lot of fun when we had fun. I'm just going to be at this place of loving them from afar, because I understand that it's, our time together has come to an end. And that is a sad thing. That is a sad thing to think you have 11-year friendships that are just kind of over because certain things just stop you from being like, this isn't something I could keep doing anymore. And it's hard. So I sympathize with anyone who's struggling with that, because I know it's not easy, but I also know it's necessary, because those friendships can have a way of bringing you down. Because when people start reminiscing a lot about your past, it means that there's nothing really there in the present. That's the only way they feel connected with you, is if they constantly bring up your past. That's all they really feel connected on. Because now if you look at the present, there's nothing to talk about anymore. There's not much in common anymore. There's nothing you guys really do anymore. So every time you have a phone call or you see them, what do you guys do? You spend the 3 hours talking about the stupid shit you did in high school, or what you did when you were in 7th grade, or, how fun it was in that college party that one time. But is that still a friendship? Or is it you had a friendship and you're trying to keep your past alive? Because what do you do with that person presently? And the answer might not be too much.
I mean, I'm just glad that I don't have to pay for this session, guys, and you guys should be, feel that way as well, because this was amazing. And to be honest, this is why I'm excited to continue this venture with you here, because it's just constantly learning and feeding off of each other. So, Vin, we're going to be friends for at least another 20 years until you drop me off. Until you outgrow me. No, but I absolutely 100% agree with you. And I feel that you've kind of swayed my my entire mindset on this, because it's that relationship solely is based off of past. Right. And if you can't build the relationship built on the present, then, really what's the point? Right? Are we just kind of feeding off of that? It's not like you're like with your girlfriend or your wives, you're building that foundation, you're building the future off of past, present, and future, and where you see yourselves going. So right. It's almost carrying that same kind of mindset with friendships. Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, right? It's like you're growing or you're dying, right? Everything in the world is growing and dying. So if your relationship isn't growing, what's it doing? It's just dying. Right. Like you guys are now, you guys are now in your 40s and you're talking about high school. It's like, right. You guys haven't had any growth in that friendship since high school. You guys have had 30 years talking about the same shit. What's going on in that friendship?
Right.
And, again, it's that's why people struggle though. Like when I've met a lot of people, I've done marriage counseling. I've done a lot of relationship couples counseling, coaching now, things like that. And a lot of people struggle in relationships to move forward or leave them, because you create these visions. There's no reality. If you're not living in the present in a relationship, what you're doing is you're doing one of two things. You're either in love with the past, which is not a true representation of that person presently in front of you, or you've built them up so much to who they could become that yet again, you do not see the person presently in front of you. And now you're honestly doing that person a disservice, because you're in love with their past. You don't actually value who they are in the present. That's why you replay the past. Or you're so in love with who they could become that again, you're not focusing on who they are in the present. Are they actually striving to become that person? Are they doing things to work on your relationship? Are they doing things to work on themselves? And if they're not, like, why are you holding on to a future that doesn't exist? And so helping people get present in their relationships is really, really important when you're trying to help people figure out, like, should you keep this person around? Should you stick around? Is there potential in this person? Do they want to grow? Or are they content with where they are? Are they stuck in their past? Are you stuck in their past with them? And just looking at the whole thing that comes with this relationship, like that's how a relationship dynamic works. If you're finding that a relationship has a lot of strain or it's hard to maintain, usually you're not very present with that person. And then it's about, well, where are you if you're not present? Are you in the past? Are you hopeful future? But I can guarantee you're not right there right now. So, all of this relating back to kind of what we're doing, as we want to create this 1% community, because we want to give people a space to meet other like-minded people that are striving to become amazing in their own way, that are striving to do something worthwhile, worth value. And I always like to tell people one of the major factors of growth, and I know Shane will agree with this, is investment. Being able to invest in yourself, being able to invest in getting into the rooms, getting around the right kinds of people, getting the right kinds of materials and things in your hands that can help you not only grow, but find people that want to do the same, right? Investing in community, investing in a certain type of webinar, or listening to a podcast. You're going to have other listeners, right? Everything that has a community aspect to it can get you around those people that you're looking to meet. So look for the right places to be.
I mean, there's just so much truth to what you said there, Vince. Vince, I'm calling you Vincent and Vince. Vin. And, I think I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on programs and coaches, and especially in the marketing field, that was going to be the fix it, right? This is going to be the game changer. This is what I'm looking for. And from what I have found over the years of me spending the money and the time, and me actually investing in myself and doing the actual work, is 90% of these courses, these gurus that you actually meet, you're just another number to them. But when you actually are in a community and you're face to face and you have these Zoom interactions, these virtuals, that's priceless. I mean, You're learning something that even I just learned today, that I'll never forget. And that's what I think is one of my biggest takeaways about this community, is the relationship buildings here. It's not just, a mastermind where it's just going to be bullcrap that's going to be talked about, right? It's building rapport, it's building the connections, but on top of that, it's with a room filled of like-minded individuals.
Right.
So it's just a total win-win.
I also, there's something I like to tell people too about tiers of personal development, because realistically, when you're looking for a community, that's a form of personal development. Doesn't matter what kind of community it is. You could be joining a community of, architects, community of people who are looking to avoid taxes. It doesn't matter. Whatever community you join, it's because you want to learn something and you want to be around like-minded people. But I think it's also important to do your research. So I'm gonna give people a little takeaway here of something they could kind of do to understand where they're at in their journey before they just start throwing their money, investing in all these different things that may or may not make sense. So I like to tell people that there's tiers to personal development. Tier 1 is anything you do will help you. Get books, listen to free podcasts, listen to free videos on YouTube, go stalk people's Instagrams, whatever you could do. Don't spend much money, just play around, because anything you do when you first start is going to help you because you're brand new, right? It's kind of like when you first go to the gym. As soon as you start working out, you're going to feel better virtually instantly because you've never worked out before.
Right.
So if you look at what are the free resources and how can I find what I'm looking for, just start exploring there. It's very cheap and it's very effective. And what you're also doing is you're starting to see who and what resonates most. Because as you start reading or learning from all these different people, you're going to find, I don't like that guy's message. This guy seems too stupid. This guy seems too aggressive. This guy's just right. Kind of like the Three Bears, right? With the porridges. And so once you find the right types of messages and the things you're looking to learn, go to stage 2, which is now investing in communities. So now you're going to live events. You're joining a community. You're joining a mastermind. You're joining groups, right? Maybe coaching groups, things that are usually cheap. Now in this tier, this is going to be a low to medium investment. You're looking at a few hundred, maybe a few thousand per month or per year. So you might join communities that are like $97 a month. You might join communities that are $1,000 a month. You might even go for a big one that's like $15,000 for the year. So these are now more niched in, these are going to give you messages that are still somewhat general because it needs to apply to everyone in the community. However, it's more along the personality, the tone, and the message and the information that you're seeking, because now it's directly taught within that community, right? Like now it's more specialized. So tier 2 is going for that. The final tier is tier 3. This is usually the medium to high investment. And this is when you're getting that one-to-one support, where it's like, hey, I've been in this community. I love this guy that's running the community. He's got such great information. I want to invest in one-to-one service with him, because now I don't want to just hear where he's talking to 30 people about how they can improve their life. Now I want him to use my specific name and tell me how I can improve my life by the things I'm doing within my own individual world. And those investments are usually going to be thousands to multiple thousands, maybe even higher. So wherever you're at in your personal development ladder, try to figure that out. Are you on tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3? You could also combine, like even me, I have tier 3 and tier 2. I belong to communities and I get one-to-one, because I still believe there's tons of value in communities. By the way, no matter what tier you're in, there's tons of value in communities, because those people might even grow with you and do different things with you. But you're always going to need to just see where you're at, what investments make sense to you, and what's the information you're seeking, and what do you personally need to expand in your life right now.
Yeah, that's great advice. Realizing what tier you're at, I think, is very, very important. And I honestly think the number one thing is just doing it. Yep. That's kind of been the moral of today's, talk, is just doing it. If you really want to become an entrepreneur and you really want to become a 1%er, whatever that 1%er means to you, then you have to do the work. You have to learn from your failures, and you have to grind. You have to be it out there. And the best way of doing that is being in a community for people to motivate you. So yeah, spot on.
I love it. Well, Shane, I think we've pretty much wrapped, or we've given a pretty decent podcast today. Why don't we wrap it up? Any closing remarks you got? Anything you want to say to the maybe one listener we have, which might be the person who edits this video?
Is my wife listening to this? If you guys want to, learn more, just reach out. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you and answer any questions that you may have. This, for me personally, from what you've heard, this is it's a very open-minded group. Obviously, as you could tell, Vin's got a great message. He's got a great head on his shoulders and a great past. And I'm over here just being a grinder and a hustler, like probably most of you guys are or want to be. So having these types of different personalities and backgrounds, that's your character. That really builds who you are. And we're excited to meet, you guys and see what you guys are all about. So just reach out if you guys have any questions. We're always here to help out.
I love it. I think those are some great closing remarks. We're going to continue doing our podcast, or maybe we won't. But either way, we're going to aim to consistently bring you guys value. Talking about, well, maybe the premise of like Seinfeld, where we talk about nothing, but it has a whole lot of stuff that you can relate. Nothing, but it's everything at the same time.
Love that Seinfeld episode.
So thank you guys for listening. Be sure to join us on episode 2, where we will figure out what topic that will be. And yeah, check out the community. Any questions, you can reach out to me or Shane. You could hit us up on, well, Shane and I have LinkedIn. I'm pretty big on Instagram. You can find me at vin.infante. You can go to my website, www.vincentinfante.life. And you can find Shane. Shane, where could they find you, actually?
That's the good mystery there. Where can they find me? No, if you guys want to reach out, I would say, Vincent's website's great. We're currently in the works of building all of our sites together. If you're wanted to reach out to me personally, Shane at thevagroup.com. That's my personal email. Send me an email. More than happy to respond.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you guys.